Okay, so this tutorial is going to be a very basic overview of using this squash and stretch ball rig for a couple assignments we're going to do in class, starting with the very basic ball drop. I want to give a shout out, I guess. So I was researching online various ways that I might want to set up a rig for this ball. And I found this one, it's perfect. It has everything we need. Time is short, so it was a free download. You might want to check out this website, though. See what the creator of the ball rig has to offer as far as ebooks and products and courses and things to look at. I believe his name is Morenz. So anyways, maybe I'll put a link on Canvas to this, but it's just Blop or Bloop animation, I guess, .com, and then /ball rig is where I found this specifically. And I have the scene that I have here, I've updated slightly from a previous version where I have the rig in there now with the stage and the basic physical sun, physical sky lighting setup that we can use. I've also updated this a little bit to put a few extra controls on the pillar for the second assignment that we're going to do. So more about that later. But that's on Canvas underneath the scenes folder, ball with stage master 1. Okay. So let's put that away. Let's look at this scene. I have done a little cleanup from when I first posted this. So we have the light dome and the large stage platform in one layer. We have a little round stage here. This has several controllers for animating it, but I did make sure that you cannot click on the ball. Okay, so I put that in the ball geometry do not touch layer. And there's another one here which we're going to use in project 2. Assignment 2, so don't worry about that for now. All right, so I'm going to hold down the space bar and click on the word Maya to go to my right hand view. Kind of move out here, and let's just look at a few of the controls. I made a little bit of a tweak. I did not like at the very beginning, one thing that did bother me about this rig, my apologies or no offense to the creator of this, but from the side view, you couldn't see all of the controllers independently. They were all at this kind of horizontal plane of the ball, with the exception of the ones that are here at the top and bottom. So the blue one was right where the red one is, just a little bit bigger, and then the yellow one, and I'll explain what they are here in a second. So without moving the pivot, I just selected the points on these curves, and I moved this one down, and I bent this one so that you could see all of them from the side, because when you're animating a ball dropping and bouncing, the side view really is going to get you most of the way there, right? So let's talk about what each one of these does. So the yellow one, in fact, let's go back to the perspective here real quick. So we have a yellow ball placement control. Okay, this is like a universal control. It's more of, instead of something that would use to do a lot of animating, it's like a utility control that allow you to scale uniformly all of the deforming nodes for the ball. The ball itself actually sits in this rig, and it has multiple groups. The Bloop Ultimate Ball Rig geometry, its control, and the Bloop Ultimate Ball Rig group with all the rigging that's set up here with these little deformers, the geometry and links to that geometry. So all of that's in there. We don't want to touch that. You should not touch that, right? Just leave that ball rig where it is. But the placement node, if you decided you want a larger ball or a smaller ball, you could change that. And it also allows us to kind of move things to a starting point if we would like to do that, which we will here in a second. Okay, the next thing is this blue controller here, which when I look kind of at a side view, you can see it kind of looks like a little hat, almost a cowboy hat or something. So I've curved that. This is the one that we're going to use to move forward or backwards or up and down for our animation, right? I'm going to leave it right there at the center of that placement node for now. Don't rotate this. Certainly not for the first assignment. For the second assignment, might be a reason to do that. I'll explain that here in a second. The red controller, this red curve, I should say, is the ball rotate controller. So I can't move it or scale it, but this is where I'm going to animate the ball rotating, right? Just back that up. For these next ones, I'm going to go to actually the right view here. So if I click on the green controllers, they only have translate for them, and this is where your squash and stretch can be done, right? So it can happen at the bottom, down here. It can happen at the top. We'll see that like as it squashes a little bit, it pulls itself away from that bottom controller. It might be a little trick of the lighting, but that's just something to keep in mind. Let's see how much that really, that's pretty close. It's just mainly a trick of the lighting. And 4 is the wireframe, 5 is shaded, 6 is with textures, if you are not familiar with that. So when I'm doing the squash and stretch, you know, as the ball is coming down and landing, it should squash in the direction that it's going, and it should stretch in the way that it's going, right? So if it came down, it was going to jump this way. You don't want the ball coming down at an angle and then deform perfectly along the y-axis. Would not look correct, right? So, and if I need to get it back to the point where it's not doing any stretching or squashing, just type in 0, and that will put these controllers back to the origin relative to the other controllers that we're using. So just an overview again here. So we have this broad placement node. We have the blue line is the translate, okay, or move. The red one here, red for rotate, okay, so we can do that. And then we have these little squash and stretch controllers, and we have one down here, right, that we can use. Okay, there's one other one in here that we can see. So there's a little ball deformation rotate control. So if you needed to, so let's say that the ball was going to move in the air and you needed it to bounce off the wall and do a little squash and stretch from here, right? You could you could use this to basically better align the axis of deformation that you would like to use, right? For the most part in this first assignment, just dropping it off the platform, you shouldn't have to mess with that. You certainly don't want to do this. I mean, you could kind of try to counter it by putting this here, but you're going to run into problems, most likely based on rotations and things. So the placement control I would just use at the very beginning. So let's go ahead and do that. Actually, let's just go to the right-hand side. So those, our little pillar that we've put in there. And I'm just going to place the ball. Right? And from this point on, I'm just going to leave that placement node. So when I start animating with the blue in here, you know, I'm just going to animate it bouncing along as it moves away from the controller. So I'm just going to leave that one there. Again, that placement is more just like a little starting point and a utility one so that I could set the scene with the character. Obviously, this is a pretty simple character, but if you had something like a full biped humanoid character, having an all controller that allows you to move everything to a new starting location would be very, very helpful. Okay, so that's about 10 minutes there. I'm going to go ahead and stop this tutorial, and I'll come back with another one that kind of gives you an overview of how to approach the bouncing ball.